Hello there. So let's talk about the functions in Kotlin. So let me create a file called functions.kt and let's write our main function in here. And inside this function, let me type some message here. I'm learning Kotlin, and in the next line I want to print programming language. And here is our output, which says I'm learning Kotlin programming language. Now let's print the same message from our custom function. In order to do so, you can create your own function like this. You need to type fun and then name of your function. So let's say our function name is message, and open the curly bracket and close that curly bracket. So I'm just gonna cut this and paste in here. Now we need to call this function. So in order to call this function, just do message and then pair of curly bracket. So let's run this program one more time. And here is your same output. So let's pass some data between these functions. So first of all, let me create a variable called fruit. Let's assign this variable as apple, and I can simply pass this fruit inside this function. Now as soon as I do that, it is saying too many arguments for public function message. So here you need to define the argument. So our argument will gonna be fruit, and it's a type of string. Now we can simply print that message in here. So fruit, and you can name this variable anything you want. You don't need to specify exactly the same. For example, I can just say fruit name, and here I need to do the same thing. So let's run this program, and you can see apple. Okay, let's pass multiple values. So let's say another variable called game, and let's assign this game as cricket, and let's pass this cricket from here as well. So game, and we also need to handle that case in here. So game, it is going to be of type string, and let's print that in here. Okay, so this is how you pass the multiple parameters. You can also directly pass the variables like this. So let's say 4, 5. Okay, you can even do like this, and in here you need to handle them similarly. So num1, it is type of integer, and num2. So this is how you can pass any number of arguments from functions. Now let's make a simple function which is going to take the first name and surname as a parameter and going to return the full name as a return type. So for that you can just do function, and let's say full name. It is going to take the first name. It is going to be of type string, and it is also going to take the surname. It is also going to take the type as a string. Now we want to return some data from this function, and in order to return the data from the function, we need to specify the return data type. And in Kotlin you specify the data type as colon and then name of your data type. So in this case a string, and let's return this data $first name and then surname, and this is how you can return the data from the function. Now let's call this function in here. So print ln, and just write the name of the function, which is full name. So our first parameter is first name, let's say Carl, and our surname is Sagan. Now let's run this program, and here you can see the output which says Carl Sagan. Now when you encounter a function like this which has only one line, then you can even omit this curly bracket, and then just remove this return and place is equals to in there, and this program is also correct. So let's run this, and you can see we got the same output. Also you don't need to specify the data type in here, so just write is equals to, and this program is also going to be correct. So let's run this to verify this, and you can see we got the same output. Now I'm going to talk about the default parameters in Kotlin. So in order to explain this topic, I'm going to create a simple interest calculator function. So just write function and name of your function, simple interest, and it is going to take the principal as a parameter, and it is going to be of type int, and it is going to take the second parameter as a time, and this is also going to be of type int, and it is going to take the r as a third parameter, and it is going to be of type double. And inside this I'm gonna return the interest. So our formula for interest is principal multiplied by time multiplied by rate and divided by 100. So this is gonna be our simple interest, and it is giving us error. It says required unit but found double. So we need to specify the data type here. So our data type is gonna be double because we are returning the double from here. Okay, now let's call this function from here. So println and simple interest, we need to pass the data. So let's pass principal as $2,000 and time as 2 years and rate as, let's say, 5 years. And in order to explicitly mention this 5 as a double, you need to do double, or you can simply say to float, and here also you can do float, and here also you need to do float, because we know that float is going to take the less space. So let's run this program. And you can see our interest is 200. Now in here, if I do something like is equals to 2, and then we need to specify as to float. Now if I do something like this, then our default value will be 2 if I don't specify the rate in here. So let me remove this. It is not giving us error saying less number of parameters than required. So in this case, if I run this program one more time, you can see our program is still working fine. So the concept is, if you provide argument in here, then this 2 will be replaced by that argument. Otherwise it is going to take the default value. In this case, it is just taking the default value. So as I already mentioned, if you encounter this kind of function which has only one return statement, then you can omit the curly bracket, and then you can remove this return and replace this with is equals to, and also you can return this float. So this is how our default argument works. Now let's talk about the named argument. So if I specify principal is equals to 200 here and time equals to 2, then this kind of argument is called name argument. You can see I'm explicitly mentioning the argument name in here. I can do also same thing like r equals to 5 or something like that. And we need to change this as float. And let's run this program. And there is our output. So the advantage of this named argument is you can switch the order. For example, I can even change the position. Let me switch the position of this time. And this is also going to be a valid program. So the time, that is t, is assigned to this argument and the rate is assigned to this variable. So you don't need to worry about the order when you use the named parameters. Now let's talk about the different types of functions. There are basically 3 types of function. First one is top level function, second is local function or nested function, and third is member function. So let's talk about the top level function. All the functions that are outside the class is called top level function. For example, this main is a top level function. Similarly, this message, full name, simple interest, these all are top level function. Now if I declare a function inside this function like a local function, and inside here I just want to say local function. So if you declare a function within a function, then it is called local function or nested function. You can only call this function within this block. You cannot actually call this function outside this block. For example, you cannot actually call this local function from this main function. You can see it is giving us error. But you can actually call this top level function from the other class as well. For example, if I go to source and create a new Kotlin file, let's say another file.kt, and let me quickly create a main function here. Now I can always call these top level function from here. For example, let me call a message, and here I can actually pass the data. Let's say fruit name gonna be apple, and game is gonna be baseball, and integer gonna be 5 and let's say 7. And if I run this program, I can see I am getting the value in console. The reason you are able to call this function is that all the top level functions are by default public and we are in the same package. For example, if I write here private and if I go to another file, then you can see it is not allowing us to call that function because it is a private in the file. So by default every top level function is public. So basically there are two kinds of modifiers, public and private, when we are talking about the top level functions. And when we go to the object oriented programming, there are other visibility modifiers as well. So for now just remember public and private modifiers. So when you have the public level modifier, you can actually call them from the another file, and by default every top level function has a public modifier. So this is just a basic fundamental wrapper for the functions. We are going to have a separate module for functions only, and where we are going to talk about the different aspects of functions and do a lot of exercise on them. And I will see you in the next part.